In this episode, I recite the poem, The Ancestral Code, the obvious answer to the question, what is God? Welcome to the Bottom Turtle Podcast. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Bottom Turtle Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Shannon Ray, and this week I will be reciting another poem. So lately, as you guys have noticed, this season that I'm doing with Ryan has a lot of critiquing of wokeness. And I have no idea how exhausted people are of this topic for this season. I mean, it's interesting because I have, as far as I can tell, lost quite a few viewers for this season. But I also lost a crap ton of viewers after that last hiatus. I find it ironic that when I put all of my energy into the thing is when I have the least number of people listening to it. At this point, I feel like I probably have about 15 to 20 consistent listeners at the moment. So if you're one of the very few who have stuck with it or have recently started listening, thank you, I guess. But that being said, with this particular season, it does seem as though at the beginning of the season, I had probably about 30 people, and now it's probably down to like 15. So I don't know. I mean, I know it's a very divisive topic. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of avoided it until now. But, you know, this entire time you have been listening to me for the entirety of this podcast, the views you're hearing in this season have been consistent like the entire time for like the last 4 years I've been doing this. So this isn't anything new. This isn't anything different. You're listening to the same person. And I would hope that if you are a listener who has listened to this podcast for from the beginning or even for the last couple of years, it would seem obvious why this particular subject is so like baffling to me and frustrating and obviously immoral. Like, at least at the very least, you could understand why I find it that way. And I would hope that the arguments I'm making make perfect sense as to why. But with that being said, I do want to break up the, negative, because it's a very negative topic. I mean, I will be happy when I'm no longer, when this season's over, to be honest, because, it just doesn't, it's not a happy topic. It really isn't. But I also do think that there is something deeply immoral going on here that needs to be addressed. So, it is what it is. So the reason why I'm reciting a poem for this episode is last weekend, I recorded an episode with Ryan where we actually discussed the concept of evil directly. And I thought it went really well. I feel like Ryan and I are starting to hit something of a flow. It felt like the most natural conversation I've had with him in a recording that reminded me of my interactions with Oyani, at least in terms of how comfortable I felt and the natural way the conversation progressed. So I'm actually excited to do that, but it's going to take a while for me to edit it. And so I wanted to get something out this week, so I decided to read a poem. So this poem is called The Ancestral Code, the obvious answer to the question, what is God? And I know that is a very arrogant title, but that was what was inspired when I came up with it. I don't know when I think I probably wrote this one down at least 2 years ago. So this is a 2-year-old poem. This was definitely at the height of my Buddhism, Christian inspired poem phase. So it's just like a mishmash of those two things. So the poem itself is actually a description of what I was experiencing when I noticed my mind was wandering. So it is my description of the experience of falling asleep, of clinging to a thought, of getting lost in it, of losing my control over my consciousness. So that was the inspiration for this poem. Anyway, so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the poem, and stay turtling, my friends. Peace. The Ancestral Code. The obvious answer to the question, what is God? By Dr. Shannon Ray. What is God? God is at the end of the line of the Ancestral Code. What is the Ancestral Code? It is the code that was passed down to us by our forebears. What is the end of the line? That from which all code emerges. What is at the end of the line? The Tathagata. What is the Tathagata? The eternal suchness of all things, all of it, without anything missing. It is not everything if it does not include what it is not. What is the Tathagata? The infinity of all possible perspectives, all of it, without anything missing. Once the light of God is felt, nearby spirits rush to bask in its warmth, its love, its awareness, its sight, its power, its agency, its will, its knowledge, its speech. These spirits are nearby your candle flame. It is not that you are moving, you are stationary. The spirits near you are the ones that are moving, and the ones that are near you depend on your aura, what you attract. If the light of God is lost, you become unaware, and the spirits that were gathered by your aura to God's flame animate the vessel of experience, the vessel of perception. The images come in and out. You catch a glimpse of which spirit painted the image, but it is too fast. By the time you check to see who it is, you're captured by the image, and you are shrouded in darkness. The darkness is not the obvious spirit of darkness that most would think. Instead, the darkness is the imagination, the simulation created by the code, the ancestral code, the code of the spirits of the ancestors. This code creates a model which is our perception of reality, our model of reality, our language for interpreting reality, for decoding it, our experience of reality. To break out of the matrix, you must become aware. The weight of the matrix is the encumbrance due to your past conditioning. To break it, you must strengthen your will. This will is made in God's image. It is God's flame. It's still there. It's always there. You just can't see it because of the darkness. You can't see it past the noise. You can't see it past the matrix. You can't see it past the model. You can't see it past the simulation, but it is there. To see it, you must repel the spirits that are encumbering you through the creation of perceptions. The things that move by really fast and paint the image you are seeing right now. The feeling. That's what it is. I can tell which spirit created the image through my feelings. Which spirit would create such an image, such a feeling? Is it self? Is it anger? Is it greed? Is it love? Is it hunger? Is it lust? Is it sloth? Is it gluttony? Is it nostalgia? Is it jealousy? Is it excitement? Is it foolishness? Is it shame? Is it irony? Is it regret? Is it fear? Is it depression? Is it joy? Is it father? Is it mother? Is it sister? Is it brother? Is it disgust? Is it levity? Is it reason? Is it algebra? Is it science? Is it physics? Is it mathematics? Is it truth? Is it honesty? Is it literature? Is it games? Is it information? Is it code? Is it entropy? Out of all of the spirits, the probability that it is any of them depends on your aura, what you attract, what you think about. Who are you? The one in relationship with the flame of God, made in God's image. The one using God's eye, the one with sight, the one who perceives, the sentient being, the spirit of the ancestral code. To break the matrix is to repel the spirits of the code that was received through past karmic actions, the karmic debt. To be free of all debt is to be free of all encumbrance. No more spirits. Each spirit flocks to the flame of God because it wants something from God, to use God's power to exist, to use God's power to animate, to use God's power to name, to use God's power to judge, to use God's power to love, to use God's power to be excited, to use God's power to be conscious, to use God's power to preserve, to use God's power to create and use language, to use God's power to create and be spirits, to use God's power to create and play games, to use God's power to create visions and use sight, to use God's power to create and enjoy art, to be like God. Because who wouldn't want to be like God, the creator of all from which creation came, the full capacity of perception, all of it, without anything missing. This is the Tathagata. This is the end of the line of the ancestral code. This is God. The nature of the eye of God. It lives between the negative and positive poles, the contradiction, the paradox. To embody all paradoxes at once, it sees all in all ways, all of it, without anything missing.